one should have to experience what I did. No one should feel unsafe simply existing in a public space, and I will not stay silent about what happened to me.
Sharing details about a suspected act of hate, a woman targeted in a terrifying and unprovoked attack.
Her headscarf nearly set on fire. Tonight, the condemnation and calls for justice. Good evening. It happened inside the Ajax Public Library over the weekend. A female suspect was arrested and is facing several charges tonight.
The victim, still too scared to speak publicly, allowed her statement to be read by community leaders who want the incident treated as a hate crime. CTV's Adrian Gobriel was at today's news conference and has more details in tonight's top story.
Nathan, it was Saturday inside this public library in Ajax when a mother wearing a hijab says a woman began to yell at her. She then tried to pour a fluid on her hijab and light it on fire. The National Council of Canadian Muslims called an emergency press conference today as they read out a statement from the victim.
Every time I close my eyes, the incident replays over and over again. I don't feel safe for my daughters, all of whom wear hijab. I'm deeply worried that if something similar were to happen again, they could become targets for hate and violence. The fear that an incident like this could happen to my daughters keeps me awake at night and shakes my confidence in the safety of our community spaces.
The victim says she began to scream and security came to her aid as the alleged suspect struggled to get her lighter to work. Thankfully, her hijab wasn't set on fire. Police say they've arrested 25-year-old Kaylee Ann Fryer. A source with the town of Ajax tells CTV News Fryer was arrested in October for swinging a machete at a man across the street from the same library. While violent, it's unclear if the previous alleged assault also targeted a member of the Muslim community.
The past 24 hours got so many messages from Muslim hijabi women who are scared to go to public places, who are scared to go to a grocery store now, come to a library. That is not something that we're okay with.
With this latest violent incident taking place just as election campaigns get underway, the National Council of Canadian Muslims are calling on all federal parties to release a public plan to combat Islamophobia and hate. Nathan.
Thank you, Adrian. We turn to the murder of a teenager inside a downtown condo building.
Today, police identified the 16-year-old boy who was shot and killed. A 19-year-old is in custody. CTV's Janice Golding joins us live from the building near York and Lakeshore Boulevard with the latest. Janice.
Hi, Michelle. Yes, Toronto police have arrested a 19-year-old man, in relation to the shooting of a Toronto teen inside the high-rise behind us here, which, to give you some context, is just steps away from the Scotiabank Arena. Toronto police say the victim in a weekend shooting at a downtown high-rise was just 16 years old, allegedly killed by a man he knew.
The investigation revealed that they were friends.
Investigators say at around 5:55 p.m. yesterday, officers were called to the 49th floor of the ICE condos at York and Lakeshore. When they arrived on scene, they located 16-year-old Yonadab Dar.
A short time after homicide investigators being notified, an adult male by the name of Elijah Chapman turned himself into 51 Division with Toronto Police Service.
Police say the suspect, 19 years old, has been charged with second-degree murder.
Knowing it's a young boy, it's more terrible. I feel very sad for the family.
Investigators believe Dar was slain very early Sunday morning, although the gunfire was not reported to 911 until much later in the day.
I was coming back from the Eden Center, and when I came here, I saw like a ton of police officers here.
Sky has a 3-month rental in the building.
Oh yeah, a fair amount of the building is Airbnb, yeah.
Police didn't say how many people were inside the unit at the time of the shooting, but confirm it was a short-term rental.
I'm not very surprised because the ICE towers are probably the most notorious ghost hotels in the city of Toronto, with literally hundreds of short-term rentals, many of which are not permitted by the city.
Thorben Wieditz is the executive director of Fair B&B Canada, a not-for-profit involved in regulating short-term rentals in large cities.
And we have literally seen violence in these towers, for a long, long time. We have had other incidences, other shootings.
Area residents and other tenants say they are concerned about how much of the building is being used for short-term rentals.
Yeah, I mean, it's the ICE condos, but it's sad. It's just sad to see that they're just kids.
They do need to control the Airbnb issue. I mean, I feel that's one of the biggest challenge, right? Because you have so many new people coming in every now and then they have zero control over them.
While police say they believe this was an isolated incident, they wouldn't comment what may have led to the shooting. Now, the Marine unit was searching the waterfront area this morning. Police confirmed that they have recovered a weapon which they believe was used in the shooting. This is Toronto's 6th homicide of the year. Reporting live from Janice Golding, now back to Michelle.
Thank you, Janice. Still ahead, bittersweet bargains at the Bay. Canada's oldest company begins liquidating most of its stores. Customers weigh in on the shopping experience, aiming to redeem gift cards before it's too late.
We turn now to the federal election and the first full day of campaigning for the candidates looking for your vote.
Tax cuts, housing, and U.S. tariffs all received a lot of attention today as the 5-week sprint to the April 28th election kicks into high gear. CTV's Colton Prale has the details.
For months, Pierre Poilievre has been campaigning in factories and plant floors across Canada. And that's also how he started the first full day of the race.
This is a tax cut for the workers behind me who will pay 15% less on their income tax. This is a tax cut for the waitress, for the welder, for the barber. This is a tax cut for everybody who has ever got up early in the morning and worked hard to build our country. This is a tax cut that will put Canada first.
The Conservatives making a similar announcement to the one Mark Carney made yesterday. Carney pitched decreasing the marginal tax rate for those making $57,000 or less by 1%. Pierre Poilievre says he would drop it by 2.25%. The difference? A dual-income family would save $1,800 under the Conservative plan, or over $800 under the Liberals. Carney argues those extra savings will come at a cost.
So if you take their tax announcement today, and you take what Mr. Poilievre said, no more childcare. No more pharmacare, no more dental care.
The question of affordability also being asked by the Bloc.
I don't have to compete with that, but let me say something. How the hell do you intend to do that?
At their campaign launch in Quebec City, Donald Trump's tariff threat was front and center. In response, François Blanchet promising to bring forward a bill to prioritize Canadian companies, and especially those in Quebec, for government contracts. Meanwhile, the NDP are focused on housing. In Montreal, Jagmeet Singh promising $1 billion to buy more federal land.
When we see federal land, we want to use all of it, 100% of federal land that's usable to build homes that are affordable, homes that are non-market housing.
Singh saying the NDP will use it to build over 100,000 rent-controlled homes in the next decade.
Singh also criticized Carney and Poilievre's tax cut plans, calling them too broad, adding they would help billionaires instead of the Canadians who need it most. Colton Prale, CTV News, Ottawa.
The stakes are high in this election, and the number of seats available has never been higher. 343 ridings are up for grabs, 5 more than last time, which means 172 are needed for a majority. This is a 37-day campaign. The election is Monday, April 28th. Before that, 2 leaders' debates, French on April 16th and English the day after. And here's where the party stood at dissolution. The Liberals with 152 seats, the Conservatives had 120, the Bloc 33, the NDP 24, and the Greens had 2. There were also 3 independents, and 4 seats were vacant.
Also tonight, parties begin pitching big promises to Canadians, hoping to target voter issues. But are they hitting the mark? We follow the leaders on the first full day of campaigning.
But outside we go for a look at what the sky is dishing out on this spring day. Rain at times, even flurries, depending on the temperature. Gusty winds in the mix as well. Doesn't look too bad this hour as we look at the downtown skyline. But really, this is the kind of stuff you expect early in the season. Let's bring in Jessica Smith with a look at the current conditions. How's the evening air, Jess?
It's much nicer now, but we did have that variety mix of a forecast throughout the day today. We had a little snow, a little wind, hail at times, sleet at times, now a little sliver of sunshine, but we remain unsettled as we head through the rest of the week for the most part. So don't put that jacket away just yet. The bulk of it has pushed past us, but the last few hours have been a mess, to be perfectly honest. There's been a little bit of everything. So quite gusty as we head into the evening. That doesn't change at all overnight and into the start of the day tomorrow. But a southwesterly wind, so it's still relatively mild. We're at 3 degrees through Hamilton, the same through Peterborough. For the most part, we're all hovering at or just above that kind of freezing mark, so it's comfortable, again, to a certain degree. Over towards the islands, 4 degrees, the same through Pearson, windy for both. Tonight, we are holding on well above seasonal, but that wind is going to persist. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, but right now, it's back over to Michelle.
Thank you, Jess. Well, there were crowded scenes at Hudson's Bay stores across the country today as shoppers began searching for bargains.
The company's begun liquidating most of its stores. All but 6 locations are selling off their inventory, with the company aiming to finish by mid-June. CTV's Mike Walker has been following this story and joins us live with more. Mike.
Well, Nathan, Michelle, we visited a couple of HBC stores across Toronto today where shoppers turned out in droves, but many tell us they were disappointed with the sales they came across. Retail experts we spoke with say don't expect any huge deals just yet. Shoppers eager for deals lining up outside the Bay long before the doors open.
I came to see if I could get any good deals. I love the Bay. I shopped at the Bay for over 30 years.
Canada's oldest company liquidating almost all of its stores over the next several weeks before they permanently shutter. For some shoppers, it's bittersweet.
I know it's not owned by a Canadian, but still, the history's here.
I know online shopping is the in thing to do, but as a senior, I find it still great to see big stores.
The liquidation comes after the courts ruled the Bay can begin selling off its inventory after filing for creditor protection. Shoppers say stores appear much busier. At this outlet location, there are already bare shelves and store closing signs posted.
I don't see nothing that I would like to there in the long line. It's just ridiculous.
But at other stores, confusion for shoppers who say they are being told sales start tomorrow.
I asked one of the salespeople and they said, no sales today.
I haven't seen any change yet, like for the prices.
Retail experts say don't expect big discounts right away, rather over time.
They have an obligation to the creditors to try and actually optimize the value of that inventory. And there's about $315 million worth of inventory.
3 stores in the Toronto area and 3 stores in Quebec have been spared from liquidation for now after the company saw a boost in sales.
There may be at some point a creditor that comes to the table and says, we'll give you a lifeline. Or perhaps that a buyer comes to the table and says, hey, before you liquidate those 6 remaining stores, we will take them.
Amid the buying frenzy, more than 9,000 employees face layoffs.
Many are long-service employees. They've worked there all their lives.
Lawyer Andrew Hatney represents a growing list of concerned employees.
There's no severance pay being paid. We are trying to engage the company as much as possible.
As part of the liquidation, the company is accepting gift cards until April 6th, but loyalty points cannot be used. Now, Hudson's Bay expects the liquidation to wrap up by June 15th and plans to vacate the stores by the end of June. Reporting live with Mike Walker. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. Niagara Regional Police are investigating a deadly shooting in St. Catharines. Police were called to the Carlton and Geneva Street area north of the QEW shortly after 3:30 in the morning for reports of gunshots. When they arrived, they found a man inside a vehicle suffering from gunshot wounds. He was rushed to hospital where he later died. So far, police have not provided any information about possible suspects, and they're asking anyone with information to come forward.
Ontario Provincial Police are investigating a suspected hit and run on Highway 407, which left a man dead. Police say a 53-year-old man was found in the westbound lanes of the highway near McCowan Road around 6 a.m. He was taken to hospital where he later died. Police say it's not clear what the man was doing on the highway, indicating they believe he was struck by a tanker truck, which then left the scene.
Working with the 407 to try to determine the traffic in that area, if there's any idea of where the vehicle may have come from. We do know that he came from McCowan Road. He came down the embankment. I know there might have been some snow on the ground at the time, but again, his intentions, his motives at this point are unknown. notifications have been made, but we certainly need to find the driver and the vehicle that was involved in this collision.
Police have released an image of the vehicle of interest. They're asking for assistance identifying a white tanker truck with blue and yellow on the side. Anyone with information is asked to contact police.
And the OPP are investigating a deadly crash in Hamilton. It happened on Highway 5 near Chapel Rock Road around 9:30 a.m. Police say a transport truck collided with a delivery van. The driver of the van was ejected and died at the scene. So far, there's been no word on whether charges will be laid.
An Ontario court began hearing arguments today in a legal challenge to stop the closure of some drug consumption sites in the province.
Last year, the Ford government passed a bill that would shut down facilities that are located near schools and daycares. The closures are now just days away. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris joins us live with more on the effort to keep the doors open. Siobhan.
Well, the group trying to preserve those services has asked for an injunction as well as launching a charter and constitutional challenge. Time really is of the essence here, with the closure of those sites just 7 days away. Inside a downtown Toronto courthouse, a fight to keep the province's supervised drug consumption sites open. On the street below, a show of support. Ontario passed a bill last year that will force 10 sites close to schools or daycares to shut down by March 31st.
We are challenging the law because it's discriminating against the people who use our services, and it's going to reduce health services in the middle of a terrible health crisis.
The lawyers behind this legal challenge argue the law violates the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and Canada's Constitution. The right to life, liberty, and security are concerns. They contend the closure of supervised consumption sites will force people who use drugs into unsafe and unhealthy behavior.
We don't need people dying on the streets, we don't need people overdosing outside, and we certainly don't need people to have brain injuries because they didn't get oxygen.
The province counters with claims violence, drugs, and disorder are problems near the sites. They hired a private investigator to document it. The government's moving to an abstinence-based model, converting 9 consumption sites to what it calls heart hubs, homelessness and addiction recovery treatment centers. There are plans to add 18 more. And there's $529 million for 540 supportive housing units. A spokesperson for the Minister of Health insists 9 heart hubs will be open April 1st when supervised consumption sites close. Advocates say there's no way that's going to happen.
First of all, it takes time to hire up staff, and second of all, the money never flowed to the organizations to open them up.
Dodd says the heart hub concept is unproven.
Just a series of case managers and system navigators to basically send people to a system that already doesn't have access.
The team behind the legal challenge wants an injunction to deal with the short-term threat of closure. But an answer on whether the rights of clients are being violated will take more patience and precious time.
People are afraid, people are angry, and people feel attacked. Attacked by their government, attacked by their neighbors, and unwanted in our community.
A second and final day of arguments will be heard by the court tomorrow. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Jury selection began today in the trial of 2 suspects accused of killing an OPP constable more than 2 years ago. Brandy Stewart Sperry and Randall McKenzie are both charged with first-degree murder in the death of Greg Percella. He was gunned down while on duty near Hagersville in December of 2022. He was responding to what would normally be a standard call for a car in a ditch. McKenzie was out on bail at the time he allegedly killed Officer Percella. Jury selection is scheduled to take 2 days. The entire trial is slated to last 6 weeks.
Returning to our federal election coverage, and the campaign is happening under the shadow of American threats and taunts.
CTV's Abigail Bimman takes a closer look at the Trump factor, which has become a defining issue.
Canada was meant to be the 51st state.
Canada caught in the crosshairs of U.S. President Donald Trump's ire.
Canada's absolutely one of the worst.
A trade war already in full swing, with Trump threatening new punishing global tariffs April 2nd. The impact for Canada is not clear. The next round may be more targeted. Reciprocal tariffs still looming, but a White House official tells CTV News a final decision on industry-specific threats has not yet been made. Trump calls April 2nd Liberation Day. Otherwise, it would have just been known as Wednesday in week 2 of Canada's election campaign.
Canadians are transfixed on Donald Trump and relations with the United States. That's the top unprompted national issue of concern.
Campaigns are all about parties trying to control the message, but pollster Nick Nano says this time it's Trump in the driver's seat. Each day, leaders will be forced to respond to the latest White House talk, and the stakes are very high.
If you mess up on a response to Donald Trump or what you think he's just said, it could be completely devastating for a federal party leader.
And I'm ready to sit down with President Trump at the appropriate time under a position where there's respect for Canadian sovereignty.
Leaders have already been pitching themselves as the best option to deal with the American president.
In the fight with Donald Trump, I want you to ask yourselves, who do you think is going to actually put your family first? Who's going to put working people first? It's not going to be Pierre Poilievre. It's certainly not going to be Mark Carney. It's going to be us.
I'm a strong leader. I'm a tough guy to deal with. I'm firm in my convictions, and I'll always put Canada first.
This political psychologist says voters will be looking for two things: who can manage the next few years with the White House better, and who has better solutions to problems.
You've seen, fear over tariffs, fear over becoming 51st state, fear over, do we have to suddenly pop on Kevlar vests and go to war? Suddenly there's an increase in nationalism.
How that new nationalism plays out in the polls will be interesting to watch, while finding solutions to an unpredictable U.S. president is no easy task. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Ottawa.
An election happening in the middle of a trade war is not an ideal time by any means, and so will it affect the government's ability to respond to the threats to our economy and sovereignty. Now that campaigning has started, the Liberal government is bound by a so-called caretaker convention. That means it can engage in routine and urgent business, but is restricted on making major policy decisions. Ottawa would be able to announce the countermeasures it has already promised, but additional retaliation could be more difficult. Ministers retained their jobs, but virtually all aides were obliged to stop using their work email and cell phones as soon as the election was announced yesterday.
Meanwhile, Elections Canada is reminding voters there are new electoral boundaries now in effect following the dissolution of Parliament yesterday.
Because of the redistribution exercise, electors may now find themselves in a new or revised electoral district. Of the 343 districts, almost 300 have been modified in some manner.
The agency also said today next month's election is predicted to cost taxpayers about $570 million. That is slightly less than the last federal vote in 2021. Elections Canada is looking to hire around 250,000 workers this time. As well, a program is being brought back to set up polling stations on 119 campuses across Canada that account for roughly 60% of the student population.
Meanwhile, a senior Canadian intelligence official says there are a number of countries that could attempt to meddle in the election campaign.
Generally speaking, we found that potential threat activities related to this year's election are likely to differ from those observed in past elections. CITE assesses that despite increased public awareness of foreign interference, most threat actors remain likely to conduct threat activities and have likely adapted their tradecraft to further conceal their foreign interference activity, making it even more challenging to detect.
China, India, Russia, and Pakistan were named during a briefing on federal efforts to protect the integrity of the election. A panel of bureaucrats has the power to warn the public if it decides that one or more incidents threaten Canada's ability to hold a free and fair vote. The panel receives information from multiple sources.
Overseas, Palestinian health authorities say Israeli strikes killed at least 65 people in the Gaza Strip in the last 24 hours. Despite the latest attacks, peace efforts are continuing. Officials say Egypt has introduced a new proposal to try and get the ceasefire back on track. It calls for Hamas to release 5 living hostages in return for Israel allowing humanitarian aid into Gaza and a weeks-long pause in the fighting. Israel would also release hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. Meanwhile, the Israelis say 2 rockets were intercepted after crossing into its territory next to the Gaza Strip. It says a missile launched from Yemen was also intercepted. There were no reports of casualties in either incident. In Florida, a SpaceX rocket began a mission this afternoon for America's spy satellite agency.
2, 1, ignitions, engine full power. Go NRL 69, go Falcon, go SpaceX.
A Falcon 9 rocket lifted off from Cape Canaveral at 1:48 p.m. It is unclear what is on board. The National Reconnaissance Office did not provide details. It is also unknown what orbit the craft was slated to assume. SpaceX has conducted 2 other missions for the NRO this year.
Coming up, new food, new beverages, and a new viewing area. Rogers Center takes the fan experience to the next level as the team gets ready for the home opener.
And we have a short break right now from some of the active weather, but we're not done just yet with the kind of messy mix. So keep that in mind as you're traveling this evening, making your way home. The consistent thing, though, tonight and into the day tomorrow is the wind. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, and stay with us. We have another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
Well, it may not feel like it outside today, but baseball season is just about here.
The Blue Jays wrapped up their spring training schedule yesterday and are getting ready to head north. They open the regular season on Thursday, and when they do, fans will experience a new and improved Rogers Center. CTV's Sean Leathong got a sneak peek today.
With a nod to the Blue Jays' rich history while celebrating what's current, there's plenty of new at the Rogers Center heading into the season, including more places to watch the action.
We are in our brand new Club 328.
Tucked along the right field line, the members-only Club 328 is the newest feature for fans this year.
Could you imagine just taking in the game, having a drink, maybe a hot dog, and taking a look at our outfielders right here? It's pretty cool.
With a bar at field level and details like a card wall of players dating back to 1977, it comes after renovating the outfield 2 years ago and then the bottom level last year. These are the final touches on a 3-year project to completely change the stadium into a ballpark.
My picture's up there somewhere.
Longtime Blue Jays broadcaster Buck Martinez is a fan.
It's not Exhibition Stadium, I'll tell you that. It's fabulous.
And there's so much more to Club 328 than just the bar. You can see this large area here, but it actually expands. If you follow me around the corner, we're not just going down the right field line, we're actually going beyond the right field wall as we're standing underneath the bullpen, and we can look at an unobstructed view of the field.
Elsewhere, there are a number of unique food and drink offerings for fans to try, where even the chefs have their favorites.
I gotta say the pastrami panini for sure.
Shaking up a cocktail that goes into night mode. And speaking of night mode, there are plenty of promotions for fans to get a little something extra.
This year we have 68 of our 81 home games feature a promotion, and that is either a theme day, a giveaway, a specialty ticket, or a unique event.
From bobbleheads to the popularity of the dark City Connect jerseys, over at the Jays shop, the goal is to expand on what is already popular.
For you're a gal that wants to really go out on the town after the game and get noticed.
Adding a little shine for fans on opening day.
Down here on field level, there's a lot of work that needs to be done before opening day, but don't worry, it's not going to be done by me.
There are 5 different types of dirt and clay that make up the infield, along with finding the right mix of sand and rubber for the turf.
It's art and a lot of work.
But they'll be ready for opening day this Thursday, creating a fan experience like none other. Sean Leathong, CTV News.
Another sign of spring is blooming in Japan, where cherry blossom season's begun. Japan's official cherry blossom spotters confirm the first blooming of the country's favorite flower.
At least 5 flowering blossoms are required to confirm the start of the festive season. And, you know, it won't be long before the cherry blossoms start flowering right here in Toronto as well, although it takes a little longer for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's another sign that spring is here. It has started.
I cannot wait.
Are you sure?
I know.
I know.
I'm able to tell today.
There was snow today, depending on where you were, although it was melty kind of snow. But can't wait till we start seeing little buds on the trees. We're still a ways away, but
I'm waiting.
It's coming.
We got like the variety pack with weather today because we had a little snow, we had rain, we had sleet. I dressed for everything when I left the house. But the good news, it was seasonal. It didn't necessarily feel all that warm outside, but we were at a fairly seasonal point. It's just the wind was doing the absolute most to kind of add that bit of a chill to the air. But the good news is we at least hold on to seasonal forecasts today, tomorrow, before a little bit of a cool down starts to roll in midweek. But if you were outside today and you were dressed accordingly, it wasn't the worst. We had a lot of cloud cover out there again, some sleet, we had some rain, we had some snow, and even a little sunshine as we get ready to wrap up our day. As we head in towards the evening, the one consistent thing is going to be the wind. It stays really gusty as we head into that kind of early portion of our evening, so just keep that in mind. But you know what? That is March. That is spring in this country. We are just so used to seeing this kind of messy weather, and that's going to continue throughout the week. We're sitting at 4 degrees right now. We're at 2 through Windsor, 6 in Ottawa, anywhere north of Sudbury, tapping into some little bit cooler air that will eventually make its way down for us. As we head into this evening, we'll be at 1. It'll feel like -4, so there's still a little bit of a cool down, that battle between kind of colder air coming in from the north, that warmer air from the south, and that really breezy southerly wind. So we're kind of in that middle ground where we're still likely to see a little bit of mixing taking place. Into the day tomorrow, still on the positive side, close to seasonal, sitting at 5 degrees, and that's the same for almost everybody. But we're still watching for the leftovers of that system that kind of brought all that messy weather today. Still prompting a few kind of alerts in towards areas through Owen Sound and Perry Sound for snow. They're looking at about 10 centimeters by the end of the day today. This low, the bulk of it again pushes out as we head into this evening, but behind it, we'll see some lingering active weather with that cold front. As that cold front sinks down, it gets cold. So Tuesday night into Wednesday, we're going to notice a bit of a chill in the air. In the rest of our evening, the bulk of the active weather staying again in those areas where we have those alerts still in place. For the GTA, we're just holding on to a lot of cloud cover. The chance of active weather lingers kind of into the west end of the GTA, but for the most part, we're relatively dry. Cloudy into the start of the day tomorrow. It remains unsettled, maybe a little wet snow when you're picking the kids up from school, so keep that in mind. Again, they won't necessarily need all of the winter layers, but just having the jacket, probably a good idea. And then as we head into our Tuesday evening, we'll get a little bit of a break, just very scattered and unsettled. As we go through Wednesday, it starts to clear out. So kind of your second half of your Wednesday, we get a little sunshine as we get ready to wrap up the day. And Thursday is your day to be outside. We have sunshine and a very seasonal forecast. Stepping throughout the rest of this week, it just remains unsettled. So again, those sweet spots, you got to hold on to those good times while we got them, and that is Wednesday afternoon and Thursday, and that is it. Temperature-wise, again, it gets quite cool into your Tuesday night. We go through Wednesday, we are sitting a little below seasonal across the board. We rebound just in time for your Friday Junior, and then we return to that really messy weather. Through your Friday, the rain returns, and we're holding on at just 4 degrees, and then because we're hovering just around that freezing mark as we step into your Saturday, there is a high likelihood of some freezing rain. So as you make your way throughout the weekend, keep that in mind if you're traveling anywhere. I know a lot of folks, as we're getting into spring, we want to get out and about and enjoy our landscape as we can, enjoy the GTA, but just it's going to be a little slippery as we head into the weekend. So just drive according to the road and weather conditions always. Michelle.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Jess.
Thanks.
Also tonight, new hope in the fight against a debilitating, life-shortening disease. The breakthrough treatment now available for a rare illness that disproportionately affects Canadians.
There's new hope for hundreds of patients living with a rare degenerative disease.
It comes in the form of a new drug just approved by Health Canada. But as CTV's Pauline Chan explains, the benefits of the medication are limited.
My name is Jason, and I want to be on Skylar.
21-year-old Yasin Ramanji wants to be on Skyclaris, a new drug which has been shown to delay the progress of Friedreich's ataxia, a hereditary degenerative disease.
When he first started walking, he used to drag a leg. We went through all kinds of doctors.
Sakina Ramanji says Yasin was 6 when he finally received a correct diagnosis, and at the time there was no treatment at all.
So we try to treat symptoms, some symptoms that we can treat. For instance, that they may have muscle spasm when the disease is advanced, so that we can try and treat those.
But last week, Health Canada just approved a new drug, Skyclaris. However, Dr. Massimo Pandolfo warns it's not a cure and its benefits are limited.
This is a small improvement, stabilization, and then, unfortunately, after maybe a couple of years, you have progression that resumes, but you have gained a couple of years.
Sakina and Juza Ramanji say Yasin has declined over the years. He is now completely reliant on a wheelchair, and he recently lost much of his vision.
The problem is not only Friedreich's ataxia was making things worse for him, but the mental toll that was taking place because of him understanding that he was losing his abilities as he was getting older and things were getting worse.
But Yasin is a fighter. He does his physiotherapy and recently began college. Yasin is currently in a clinical trial, so the family is waiting to hear more details about how to access Skyclarys and how it may affect his many other medications. Right now, it is approved for patients over age 16, but provincial coverage is still being discussed. And while its benefits may not last forever, Dr. Pandolfo believes it's a step towards a lasting treatment, perhaps one involving a cocktail of medications like we use for cancer. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
A note for subway riders, there will be an early nightly closure on a portion of the TTC's Line 1 this week. Starting tonight and lasting through Friday, service will end at 11 p.m. between Finch and Eglinton stations. The early closure is the result of track work in the area. Lawrence and North York Centre stations will be closed, but all other stations will be open. Shuttle buses will run in place of trains until the end of service each night.
After the break, getting checked out at the checkout. Body-worn cameras are coming to some Loblaw grocery stores to hopefully reduce retail theft and violence. We have the details.
No one should have to experience what I did. No one should feel unsafe simply existing in a public space, and I will not stay silent about what happened to me.
Updating our top stories, community leaders read a statement today from a woman who was attacked in an Ajax Library on Saturday. Police say another woman tried to remove the victim's hijab and set it on fire. A 25-year-old is charged with 2 counts of assault with a weapon and probation violations.
I came to see if I could get any good deals. I love the Bay. I shopped at the Bay for over 30 years.
Long lineups as the liquidation begins at Canada's oldest retailer. Sales will continue at most locations over the next several weeks. The courts have ruled the Bay can begin selling off its inventory after filing for creditor protection. But 6 stores will stay open, at least for now.
Canadians are transfixed on Donald Trump and relations with the United States. That's the top unprompted national issue of concern.
Federal leaders fanned out across the country making their pitches on the first full day of the election campaign. Tax cuts, affordable housing, and U.S. tariffs were major themes. The GTA will play a big factor in the April 28th vote. With so many seats, it can potentially make or break a party if there is a close race.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
Every mention of a tariff seems to move the market. CNN Bloomberg's Morella Fernandez has the details in tonight's business report.
Canada may have to deal with a retaliatory tariff imposed by Washington next month, but it could avoid levies on specific sectors. Several media outlets are quoting Washington officials who say right now there are no plans to announce sector tariffs on April 2nd. That comes as a relief for those in the auto sector, which was granted a 1-month reprieve from American tariffs, and that expires April 2nd. There is already a 25% markup on Canadian steel and aluminum going into the U.S. Blue Ant Media is going public. The Canadian company under Michael McMillan is buying Boat Rocker Media in a deal worth more than $100 million. It's a reverse takeover. Boat Rocker trades on the TSX, and by buying it, Blue Ant Media Corporation will take its spot. McMillan, the former Alliance Atlantis chair, will become the CEO of the new company. He says the deal will unlock significant value for shareholders. Lightspeed Commerce has cut its sales forecast for the year. The Quebec-based company says concerns about inflation, job security, and weak consumer confidence are weighing on it. Lightspeed makes electronic payment systems and says it's already seen a decline in sales in February and March. Let's see how the markets ended the trading day. The Canadian dollar ended the day up a smidge, hitting 69.8. West Texas Intermediate is up a fraction to 69.1. Our fix on Western Canadian Select is up to 57.6. And the TSX shot up 335 points, getting to 25,304. Those are your business headlines. In the BNN Bloomberg Newsroom, I'm Morella Fernandez.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
A pilot project that will see some employees at retail stores owned by Loblaw using body-worn cameras is expanding to Ontario. The company says the initiative is intended to reduce violent incidents at its stores. It's not exactly clear which locations are involved in the pilot and if the cameras will be worn by employees at Loblaw's grocery stores or Shoppers Drug Mart locations.
A new CIBC poll finds despite volatility in inflation and higher costs of living, the majority of mortgage holders are confident in their ability to handle their mortgage payments. 64% of variable rate holders remain unaffected, reporting little to no impact on their standard of living, as do 59% of those expecting higher renewal rates. Over half of renewers expecting a higher rate are cutting back on discretionary spending such as travel and entertainment. Many are also shopping for better rates, seeking additional income sources and making lump sum payments toward their mortgages.
Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow visited an affordable housing complex in the East End today. Chow met with tenants of St. Jude's community homes near Gerrard and Woodbine to discuss affordable housing. She spoke about the city's efforts to build more units, as well as reducing the barriers to access.
We've cut all the red tape because people said, red tape, City Hall, lots of red tape. We have now increased the approval time by 80%. So it's fast. You come in and you need approval from the city, we get it done. Except we have all these thousands and thousands of units approved on paper, but they're not being built. So we still need financial support.
Last week, Ottawa earmarked more than $2.5 billion for 7 new rental housing projects in the city. Altogether, they will include at least 1,000 affordable units.
In sports, the Raptors will be looking to snap a 4-game losing streak when they take on the Washington Wizards tonight.
Walter to Mobo and a two-handed slam. So Raptors got it back to 14.
The Raptors are coming off a 123-89 loss to the San Antonio Spurs last night. Tip-off for tonight's game against the Washington Wizards is set for just after 7 p.m. in the U.S. Capitol. Just ahead, possibilities through creativity, unveiling a mural made by 100 kids from the St. Jamestown community, local arts education, crafting skills beyond the canvas.
Tracking Donald Trump's global tariff threat.
Well, I may give a lot of countries breaks.
Is Canada among them, and what it means for candidates pitching themselves as defenders of the Canadian economy? Later on CTV National News.
And a reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight. And a special hello to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010.
Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Finally, tonight, a group of Toronto kids making their mark on the city.
They put their creative abilities to work, transforming a sometimes unsightly side of development into a work of art. CTV's Scott Lightfoot has the story.
It was the first time these kids have seen the finished project of a massive mural they helped to create.
It's really pretty. It really represents Street Jamestown. It looks beautiful. By the trees, the CN Tower, and the different colors that we used and shapes.
The mural was officially unveiled today along the construction hoarding on the east side of a new 51-story rental building being built at 591 Sherbourne Street.
You will see that it is abstract art, bringing a lot of color, a lot of pizzazz to the corner, versus looking at the standard construction site.
The mural was done by dozens of local kids in the St. Jamestown neighborhood with the help of Art City and the guidance of abstract artist Sarah Clowder.
We were all, the paper was like on the floor, we were all on the floor painting a part.
We had like giant paintbrushes. Some people were just like spreading the paints with their hands.
The kids' handprints now form part of the work, a chance to find a piece of themselves in the finished project.
It's validating for them as individuals and artists to be able to have their artwork prominently displayed in their own community, and that's just such a big confidence booster for them.
The work of these young artists now brightening up the neighborhood for all.
We have many talented young people here in St. Jamestown, and I think, we often, they are often overlooked. And so I'm happy that we're actually showcasing their talents.
Scott Lightfoot, CTV News.
It looks great, doesn't it? Brightens up the city.
I
Speaking of brightness.
Bright. And speaking of that, oh my gosh, look, the clouds have parted, rays of sunshine. That's
You're
not
welcome.
so bad.
I'm kidding. I wish I could take credit. It is beautiful. We do have that little hint of sunshine, but we're not done with the chance of kind of the messy weather. But I will hold on to every glimmer of hope I can when it comes to our forecast. The good news is it's relatively mild as we head into the evening, even with the gusty winds. When we step into the day tomorrow, we almost have a rinse and repeat where we get a little bit of sunshine, but we're not done with that chance of some wet snow. The bulk of the really heavy stuff that was in northern Ontario has pushed its way east, left behind just a little bit of unsettled weather. Now, temperature-wise, sitting at 3 degrees, but still a really breezy west-southwesterly or southwesterly wind for the rest of the night. Winds are sitting at 2 degrees right now, Niagara at 5, Ottawa at 6, and a big old 0 for our friends out in Owen Sound. Now, temperature-wise, into the day tomorrow, again, we're not far off the seasonal point, but with the wind and that leftover kind of messy weather plus a sinking cold front, you add it all together, you subtract a little bit, it just means messy weather. But the good news is Wednesday, Thursday, looking pretty good.
Thank you so much, Jess. That's it for us, but be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Natalie Johnson with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and the whole team here, thanks for watching and have a great night.